Starting in this lesson and over the next couple of lessons, we're going to take a look at determining different ways of getting paid. So basically how your salary or how your payments are calculated. I want to be careful with the use of the word salary because it actually means one specific type of getting paid. And there are four that we're looking at. And then in real life, there are some variations on these where you get a little bit of one, a little bit of another, or something like that. But we're going to focus on kind of the four major categories. So the four that we're going to look at, and we're going to focus on two in this lesson, and then we'll do a little more in each of the next couple lessons, um, are salary, wage, which is basically means an hourly pay, piecework, and commission. So salary is when you're paid a certain amount of money per year to do a job. So I'm actually going to go down to question one, which is matching different words and their things there and saying, okay, salary was a certain amount per year. So I'm actually going to match salary down to the $35,000 per year. And you know what? While we're at it, why don't we fill in question two as well? Because these are all kind of related. So when we're talking about salary, somebody who's paid a certain amount per year, what kind of person gets paid per the year? They don't take into account how many hours they work per se, which doesn't mean that if they cut down the number of hours they work, their salary will be proportionally cut down. But it means in general, they're just paid a certain amount per year. Well, there's one that I can think of off the top of my head really easy, and it's because it's my job. I'm a teacher. So teachers are paid salary because no one keeps track of how many hours we work. Um, you know how many hours I teach in the classroom because you're one of my students, but you don't necessarily know how many hours I spend doing things like marking, lesson prep, communication with parents, and a whole bunch of other administrative stuff that I don't even want to get into, like making report cards and all that fun stuff. So I'll be honest, I don't even know how many hours a week or a year that I work. And I can't go to my employer and say, yeah, I did a lot of lesson prep last night. I'd like more pay. That's not the option. They say, listen, we hired you to do a specific job. This is how much we're going to give you a year to do it, period. Now, if I wanted to drop down to part-time and teach two classes instead of three, then they would say, okay, we're going to pay you 2/3 of a full-time teacher's salary. So it's still all proportional. It doesn't mean they can't deduct pay or add pay if I work, if I have to work extra for some reason. For instance, like summer school or night school or whatever. It just means that in general, they don't track hours. They just say, we're going to give you this much money. Make sure this job gets done. The next type, which is probably far more common, especially when you're younger, because most starting jobs will be wage jobs or hourly pay jobs. And so wages would be something like $14 an hour. And I think you can think of a whole bunch of jobs that would make a wage, an hourly wage. So I'll just put down one example, fast food. But there are plenty of jobs out there that do that. The next one we'll get into, and these next few are not going to be ones that we're going to cover today, but we will get to them. Piecework is an amount of money made for a unit of work. Now that sounds almost like hourly, but instead of saying I'm paying you per hour, it could be I'm paying you per thing you make. So if you worked in a toy factory, they could say we're going to pay you $2 per toy you build. Or a more common example might be, for instance, if you're delivering papers, you would get like 20 cents per paper or 50 cents per paper, or I have no idea what people pay for paper delivery anymore. But paper delivery. So you're paid based on the number of units of work that you do. If you deliver 800 papers, you'll make twice as much as if you deliver 400 papers, and so on. So piecework, I'm going to match that one up with $12 per crate. All right. And then the last one, oh, I think the matching question just got a lot easier. There's only one left on each side. But commission is a percent or of the dollars that you sell. So pretty much any sales job could be commission. That doesn't mean it's going to be. Um, I'll put down car sales, but pretty much any sales could pay commission. So the idea here is that your employer says, whatever you sell today, however much money you sell worth of stuff, we're going to give you 3% of that. So if you sell a lot of stuff, you get more money. If you don't sell very much, you don't get much money. And we'll talk about some advantages and disadvantages of that for both the employer and the employee when we get to it in a couple lessons. So let's take a look at a couple examples of getting paid salary. What types of job might get paid salary? Why? Okay, so we just mentioned teacher, but it could be something as well like, I don't know, management. Basically, think of any job where they don't really track your hours. They just expect a certain job to get done in a certain amount of time, usually in a year. If you make $48,000 a year, find your monthly salary. That sounds pretty easy. Most people know there are 12 months in a year. So if I know my annual salary, $48,000, to find my monthly salary, I would just say 48,000 divided by 12. And I think that works out to $4,000 per month. Now, if you make $550 a week, find your annual salary. So the entire idea here is that we can switch salaries between an annual amount, a weekly amount, a monthly amount, a biweekly amount, a daily amount. We can switch anything we wanted. The most common, though, are usually monthly, weekly, annually. So for those who do not know, there are 52 weeks in a year. I once had a student argue with me that there were 10 weeks in a year. There's just a whole bunch extras after that. There's at least 10 weeks in a year. Um, there are 52 weeks in a year. And so if we know our weekly salary, we can multiply it by 52. And I'm going to use my calculator, and you should use yours as well. 550 times 52 is $28,600. Okay. Now, let's do the trick question. This is the one that most people do wrong. And I'm going to deduct marks if you try and do it the wrong way on our evaluation because we're going over it and I'm emphasizing it. So your monthly salary is $2,200. Find your weekly salary. The wrong way to do this one is to say there are 4 weeks in a month and divide by 4 because there are not 4 weeks in a month. There are 4 and a bit weeks in a month. 4 weeks would be 28 days. So February has 28 days. No other month has 4 weeks in it. In fact, any month that has 31 days has 4.5 weeks in it. And any month with 30 days, which is the rest, is got like 4.3. So what we want to do here is instead of figuring it out directly, we're going to convert our monthly salary into annual, and then we're going to convert our annual into weekly. So monthly is 2,200. So we're going to multiply that by 12. And when I do 2,200 times 12, again, use your calculator, I get 26,400. And now that I have my annual, I'll put down per year there just to make it really clear that that is per year. I'm going to take my annual rate, 26,400, and divide it by 52. And I get $507. And my calculator says 0.6923, etc. So that's just 69 cents. And I'm never going to freak out if you round up or down. Like if you round this up to 70, I don't really care. You're off by a penny a week. Life is grand. Okay, now if I had done it the wrong way, I had said, well, 2,200 a month divide by 4, that would tell me my pay is $550 a week. And I'll tell you, there's a pretty big difference between $550 a week and $507 a week. So converting these incorrectly gives you a number that's significantly wrong. So please be careful. If you make $620 a week, find your monthly salary. We're going to do the same trick. We're going to convert to annual first and then go from annual back to monthly. So $620 times 52, number of weeks in a year. 620 times 52 is 32,240. And that's again per year. And then I'm going to take that amount, divide it by 12 since I'm looking for monthly. And when I do that, I get $2,686 and what would round off to 67 cents. Let me actually write down here per month. I should have done that up here. I should put per week. Okay, again, I see a lot of students on test who just say 620 times 4 because they think there's 4 weeks in a month, even though it's not quite exact. That would give $2,480, which means you'd be getting ripped off over $200 a paycheck. That does not sound like a fantastic deal. So please make sure that you are doing it this way. If you're given monthly or weekly and you have to convert to the other one, go to annual first and then come back from annual. Okay, that's actually about it for salaries. Salaries are probably the simplest way of getting paid as far as you just give one number, tells you how much you make per year. There's very little else to worry about. The next one, getting paid by piecework, is actually pretty straightforward too. So what types of jobs might get paid by piecework? Well, we just mentioned already above that there was the um, newspaper person or pretty much anyone who builds stuff. Now, again, I want to be clear. You can build stuff and still get paid hourly wage. You can build stuff and get paid other ways. Um, but if you build stuff, build toys, my mother, for instance, built tires. She was paid piecework. She's paid so much for every tire she built. Um, anytime you're producing something, you could get paid by piecework. So if you're an employer, why might you want to pay someone piecework instead of hourly? Well, one big advantage is you only pay people based on what they make. So if someone makes a lot of things, you pay them more, but you got a lot of things built. So that's an advantage. And if they have a lazy day where they don't get a lot done, then they build very little, but you pay them very little. So it seems more fair. I'm just going to write more fair, but we kind of talked through what I was getting at there. The more you make, the more you get paid. So the company can't lose money this way. They're only paying you if you made a bunch of stuff, and if you made a bunch of stuff, they're going to get advantage of that. Now, I will point out that there is a disadvantage to a company doing this, which is often why they might put in some kind of quota system, like a maximum or minimum number to be made. They usually put in a minimum because they want you to produce at least so much because they're expecting so much work to get done in a day. So for instance, I mean, everyone comes in and has a lazy day and doesn't make anything. They don't get paid, but the company also doesn't really can't do anything if they're producing no product. So they usually have a minimum you should make in a shift. And then sometimes they have a maximum too. And the reason for that is if I'm paid per item I make and I want to make a lot of money, I might be really poor quality and just kind of rush through the job. And that's not a good idea either. So the company doesn't want a whole bunch of poorly made items by someone who is just trying to make a whole bunch of money in one day. Now, what are the advantages to the employee, to you? Why would you maybe want to get paid piecework? And one of the advantages to that is you're rewarded for hard work. So you've probably heard of people at jobs and people talk about, well, I've been here for 10 years, I deserve a raise. Well, it depends. Are you doing more work or better work than someone who didn't get it, like someone who's new. And in some cases, that's definitely the case. So, for instance, if I was paid hourly, but I was able to make more stuff than the new guy, I'd expect to get paid more per hour. With this, you don't even have to ask for a raise. If you're there for 3 years, you're probably producing things faster than you were before, and therefore you're making more money since you're paid by piecework. So more experienced employees get rewarded by getting paid more because they can produce more things. So let's do some actual examples here. We'll work in a toy factory because I like toys. Seems like a straightforward enough example. And they offer you a choice. You'll either get paid straight piecework or salary plus piecework. And I should point out that all of these methods could be mixed and matched together in different ways. Oftentimes, things like commission and an hourly wage get mixed together, or piecework at hourly wage, or salary and commission. There's a whole bunch of options. So in this one, straight piecework pays you 15 cents for each toy you assemble. Find out how much you'd make per shift if you can make 850 toys during your shift. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, actually, instead of writing 15 cents down, I'm going to write down $0.15. And that's because we usually work in dollars. Now, if I didn't do that, I could just leave it as cents, but then I'm going to get a pay per shift in cents, which I then have to convert to dollars. So I'm just going to start right off the bat. So 15 cents is $0.15 times 850 toys. And when I multiply those together, 0.15 times 850 is $127.50 per shift. Okay, that's not too bad. For the salary and piecework option, I get paid $30 per shift plus 11 cents per toy. And we'll find out how much we make if we can make, in this case, 950 toys. So salary plus piecework is going to, well, let's figure out the piecework part the same way we did before. The 11 cents becomes $0.11 times 950. And that gives us $104.50. And then we get, in addition to that, $30 per shift. So $104.50 plus $30. My voice is getting dry. It gives us $134.50 per shift. Okay, not too bad. Now your friend starts working with you and they can only produce 620 toys per day. So what method should they request to do? Now, intuitively, you're probably thinking, well, people who make less toys are probably going to benefit more from salary plus piecework because the salary happens no matter how many things they make. And straight piecework probably is an advantage if you produce a whole lot of toys. So I'm going to guess off the top of my head that salary plus piecework is a better option, but let's actually do the calculation for both. So I'm just going to do here straight piecework, and straight piecework is 0.15 times 620 toys. So 0.15 times 620, they'd be making $93 a day, or per shift, I should say. And if we do the second method, which is salary plus piecework, what they would get is, and I'm going to format it slightly differently than I formatted the last one. I'm going to actually do it in one step, whereas up here I did the calculation there and then added the salary. Here I'm just going to say it's $30 plus 11 cents times 620. Okay, so that's 68.20. And if I add those together, I get 98.20. So of these two options, that's the one that my friend who just started the company should make, or should choose. If they're given those two choices, choose the one that's going to pay you more. Now, some point down the road, they'll start to make 650, 700 toys, 750 toys, 800 toys. And at some point, they're probably going to want to switch over to straight piecework. And the advantage to that would be at some point they're going to start making so many toys that they don't need the $30 salary. They need more per toy. But given the scenario, the better option would be the salary plus piecework. And keep in mind, you may be presented with an opportunity like this someday as well, where you're given these kinds of numbers and understanding how they work could be beneficial to you. Okay, so now we have some dreaded words called practice problems. Practice problems are a fancy way of saying, I am now letting you go try these on your own. I'm not going to talk you through them because they're all related to questions or examples that we've already done. So these ones are basically your homework, your practice. And for most of them here, just fill in the blank. So the first one, you're given a bunch of annual salaries and you're going to calculate the weekly and monthly salaries from each of those. Question 2 is kind of backwards. And I'm going to show you here how to check your work to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So if I scroll to the very bottom, I've done a hybrid between giving you answers and not giving you answers. So I've given you answers so that you can check to make sure you've done it right, but you'll notice that all these answers have this little box in them. And what it means is I'm not telling you what number goes in that box. So you'll notice for question 1, the weekly salary. Now if I go back up here to question 1, how do I find weekly salary from annual salary for this one right here? Well, I would take the 25,000, I'm doing this in my calculator by the way, and I would divide it by 52 since there are 52 weeks in a year. And the answer is $480.77. Now, I'm going to make a note that that's about $481. So if I go back down here, it says that the answer is 4 box 1. Well, the fact that I got 481, the 4 and the 1 are correct. So chances are I have the right answer. I think 481 is the correct answer. But you have to tell me what's in that box so that you can't just look at the bottom and copy the answers from the answers into the question. So this is my way of making sure that you're doing it, but giving you enough that you can double check it to be pretty sure you're doing it. You shouldn't, by coincidence, get $431 for this question. It's highly unlikely. Likewise, for the next part, 540 something. If you do it wrong, chances are you're not even going to get anywhere close to that. So the question is it 542 or 547 or what is it? So that's what I'm going to do with these little boxes here is that there's a number missing. There's enough information that you can see whether you got it right or wrong, but you still have to kind of fill in that box to make sure that you did it so that I can look at it later and say, how did you do on this? And I could ask a question on a quiz, for instance, that says for lesson 1.1, number 2, actually, I'll do it the easy way. Question 1.1, number 4, I could say, what number did you fill into that box? Is it a 45? Like, is it a 4? Is it a 7? Is the answer 75? I could just ask you what number goes in that box, and you should have the answer for me. Okay, so if you're not quite comfortable with this yet, just try some of the questions and look down. If you're getting them right, you'll kind of see really quickly that it works nicely. But basically, you figure out what number is missing from the answer, and you're good to go. Some of them, like these ones here, answers may vary. I can't give you an answer because there's a whole bunch of different possible answers. So for instance, for 5, C, and D, question 5 is asking you, why might the rate vary between $4 and $6 per tree? I realize you haven't read the question yet, but this is kind of an opinion or a thought question. It's not necessarily a numerical answer. And question 6, 5D, why do you think most orchard earners pay their fruit pickers by piecework, or do not pay fruit pickers by piecework? So I'll get your opinion on that. Can't put down an answer there because there's a whole bunch. Anyway, I'm going to let you go work on that, give them a shot, and when you're done, double check the answers at the bottom and make sure that you're on the right track. Good luck. Let me know if you need any help.